What up, nerds? Welcome to a very special episode of Straight Chilling. My name is Bob, and I'll be your host for the evening. We got here calling in from Washington, D.C., Randy Gandy G-Landy. What's up, Randy?
Why the fuck did you call us on here today?
Well, I called you, and I also called my boy Soju, who's actually joining us from the lovely state of Texas, which is...
from a gas station, as I understand it.
It's wonderfully ironic.
They say all my exes live in Texas. I wonder how many illegits I got out here.
Did you find them all? Did you find all of them?
Dude, you gotta catch them all.
150 or more.
I guess so. Gentlemen, I said that I had a surprise for you guys, and that is true. I had the distinct privilege to speak with Mr. Joe Bob Briggs today.
Richard Bibbs?
Richard
What,
Bibbs
like in a nightmare or something?
himself. Via my iPhone, so yeah, kind of.
What the fuck? Really?
Yeah.
Rob, you didn't give me the ring-a-ding?
I did.
So,
You'd blow
the
it.
big surprise is that you're cutting us the fuck out?
Yeah, Joe Bob's taken both of your places, actually.
What the fuck, Bob? After all we've been through?
Well, hot damn, it sounds
No,
like Straight Chillin' is headed straight to the top, you know?
Per usual.
We're in the big leagues now.
Per usual.
We've been thrown in the fucking trash. So
Time to sell out. Now's the time to cash in, boys.
this episode is sponsored by Squarespace. That'll never happen.
Yeah, straight to the top.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get into this Joe Bob interview here. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I give you Joe Bob Briggs.
Go Bob!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Straight Chilling. Each week, we watch and review a horror film for your entertainment. You can send all questions and comments to straightchillingpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to keep chilling.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killin'. 5 cold villains on the mic, got you reelin'. 5-star ratings from the floor to the ceiling. If you get your 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ, all the 1s and 2s. By the name of someone, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all with 2. And prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' crew.
What up, nerds? Welcome to a very special episode of Straight Chilling. This is your boy Bob. Today we're joined by a man who needs no introduction, but I'm going to go ahead and give him one anyway. He's an author, an actor, a film critic, a film historian, a horror host, a Pulitzer Prize nominated journalist, and he's currently on tour with his multimedia one-man show, How Rednecks Saved Hollywood. I give to you your patron saint of the drive-in, John Bloom, a.k.a. Joe Bob Briggs. Thanks for being here, Joe Bob.
Well, thanks. Thanks for that. Thanks for that introduction. You covered a lot of ground there.
Yeah.
That's over 35 years, so I'm not doing all that stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you've definitely had a multifaceted career, which is, to say the least. I was wondering if you could touch on just a little bit. I know, like you said, it's over the span of 35 years, but how did you go from being a sports writer to eventually having your own TV show where you're reviewing these drive-in movies?
Well, you're acting like I planned it. I didn't, when I was 13 years old, I got a job as an apprentice copy boy at the local newspaper in Little Rock, Arkansas, the Arkansas Democrat. And at that time, the term apprentice copy boy is a misnomer because all you would do is write. It was cheap child labor to get the maximum number of articles in the paper at the number 2 paper in town, the afternoon paper. And so I would go in before school and after school, and I would write at least 10 articles a day. And that's kind of how I learned to write. So everything comes from that, from being from being in a sweatshop newspaper from the time I was 13 I went to college on a sports writing. I eventually became a sports writer, went to college on a sports writing scholarship, got sick of sports, you just kind of writing the same thing over and over. And so worked for several different newspapers, and then started doing drive-in movie reviews. That led to a lot of magazine work. That led to an invitation to be a guest host on the movie channel. That led to 11 years at the movie channel. That led to 5 years at TNT doing Monster Vision. And then really after that, I kind of went back to serious journalism for 17 years until the Shudder streaming service asked me to come back and do a show, which I thought would be a one-time knockoff show. And then it was such a success that now I'm doing a regular show for a streaming service. So I'm back doing what I was doing 30 years ago when I first got that job for the movie channel. The movie channel hired me because I was writing for Rolling Stone. So I go back and forth between writing and TV. So right now I'm doing a lot of I call it TV. It's not really TV. It's streaming. But it's on the Shudder service, which is owned by AMC.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I just gave you my whole career in 3 minutes. I gave you my whole career.
I appreciate that. That's incredible how you go back and forth like that. It's impossible to know exactly where you're going to end up. Like where do you see yourself in 5 years, Joe Bob? It's.
Oh no, yeah. I can't do that because. Yeah. Well, I mean, I picked the two worst professions. Writing and acting, and both of them are so insecure. That it's just like, how I read these articles of how to do a resume, and what looks good on your resume and what looks bad. And supposedly, staying at a place a long time, that looks really good on your resume. Not in my profession. It's like, sound like it. A resume with 50 jobs on it. That's what looks good. So, occasionally people will write me email. Why are you working for that guy? He's a right-wing asshole. And I'm like, well, I don't really check their credentials before I take the job.
You got to do a background check before you accept the job.
Right.
So I was wondering, since you did write as John Bloom for quite a while, why was it that you decided to create the character of Joe Bob Briggs when you started reviewing these B movies? Was there a reason behind that? Did you want to have some sort of separation from yourself?
No, we were just trying to hide it from the editors. Okay. At the time, no one reviewed these movies. They were considered disposable trash, exploitation movies. They would premiere at the drive-in, they would play for 1 week, and they would never be seen again. And mainstream newspapers didn't deal with them at all. They were considered unreviewable. So I was the first guy to start reviewing them. And because there was a really good chance of the column was called Joe Bob Goes to the Drive-In. And because there was a really good chance of the column getting canceled, I conspired with one of the entertainment editors to bury it in this Friday section that was full of discount furniture ads. And, one of those sections that, where the ink comes off on your fingers is greasy, and back on page 28, XXX or something, that's where we put the column. We wanted to figure out a way to develop a following for the column before the editor ever saw it. The high sheriffs, the top editors.
Right.
And so it worked because we knew, as most journalists know, editors never read their own newspaper. They look at the front page, they look at the front sports page, that's it. They move on to the next day. And so we knew that we had a period of time where we could kind of like tell the right people where it was and develop a following. And that's exactly what happened. We developed enough of a following that by the time the editor did see it, it was not cancelable. And so, genius. But anyway, so I wanted it to be a populist film column, a column for people that love films, because people hate movie critics, they hate film critics, and wanted to be clearly a column of the people, and so that's why I changed everything. But I didn't know exactly what direction it would go in at that time. I just knew that I loved these movies, and they were never getting reviewed. These exploitation, horror, softcore sex, action films. Low budget action films, low budget sci-fi films that played at the drive-in. I didn't understand why they were so universally reviled, and so that's how it started.
So this is like your third iteration of the same show. You had your show on the Movie Channel for a while, and then TNT, and then now you're on Shudder. Why do you think the same format works in 2019? And more specifically, I think something that kind of intrigues me is, why do you think appointment television is working in 2019?
Well, most people would say appointment television is not working because the traditional studios, the traditional networks, of course, are struggling, and they have to do things like American Idol type shows and huge game shows and things that force people to come to their TV set at a certain time on a certain day, a certain week. They can't do that with dramas or comedies or anything else, and so they increasingly they pay huge amounts of money for example, sports programming. You can only watch it at one time, and then Netflix believes that every experience in the future is going to be one person with one device at one particular time watching one show,
Right.
So just, as a way to, as a throwback, the way we did my show is, it's going to be on at a certain time. It may or may not be dropped later, for streaming, but it's going to be on at this certain time. Come along with us. We'll be on social media while the show is on. And, as a result, we crashed all the servers at Shudder and also at the Sundance Channel. So what it said to me was, there's a real hunger for a communal movie-going experience. We're hardwired to watch these things together. We're hardwired to watch entertainment together. That's why there are theaters in Greece that seat 40,000 people. Because 3,000 years ago, people already knew you're supposed to watch stuff together, and there's an emptiness when you don't do it that way. Even if it's a great movie, if you watch a great movie by yourself on your tablet, at the end of that great movie, you will feel lonely. You will feel lonely, and you'll go bore your friends. You'll tell them the whole plot. You'll bore the fuck out of your friends, and so the great thing about this show is we have this huge community of people who watch it in real time. A lot of times they feel horrible if they have to work, which means they kind of like watch it later, but they try to watch it in real time with us. And so it is appointment television, ironically, on a streaming service. It goes against the religion of streaming, but it is appointment television.
Yeah. I was wondering, so kind of my favorite part of your show are the monologues that you do before you show a movie and at the end, and you interrupt them and whatnot. I was wondering, like, what's your process when you're writing these things? Because you always start talking about the movie, but then before you know it, you're ranting about like craft whiskey or Tesla or something like that.
Yep. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's something I've done since the very early days of the Movie Channel. The format has always been the rant, the description of the movie, the drive-in totals, and then we're out, and then in this format that we have now, I mean, we interrupt the movie. We have commercial breaks, even though we have no commercials, but we have commercial breaks anyway. And at Monster Vision, it was that way too. So I come in at a certain place in the movie and I react to what has happened in the movie. And sometimes I talk a little bit about what might be coming up without spoilers. And they're really just, they're ways of bonding with the audience. It's like I'm sitting there with you on your couch, that's the way people watch TV for the most part. Most people don't watch TV alone. They watch it with somebody. And so if they are alone, they can watch it with me. So that's all it is. It's a way to experience the movie. It's a little warmer than the normal way that movies are transmitted. And so, that's the whole thing, is we're all in this together. Yeah.
And there's even during your rants, they're very funny. There's tons of comedy embedded in them, but in certain ones I've noticed there's almost like a moral through line that you include. Like specifically the last episode you did of the first season of The Last Drive-In, you were showing Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2, and you're talking about like tolerance and acceptance, and maybe we need a little more tolerance in the world. And is that like, where does that come from? Is that something you intend to include, or is it just does it just kind of come naturally like everything else to you?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking me, but that particular piece was about this increasing thing that I see in society where it's like zero tolerance. Right. Zero tolerance for this and zero tolerance for that. Well, this is America. We should have some tolerance, right. And so it was like, here's all the bad things that happen when you have zero tolerance. Leads directly to injustice of various sorts. And so, I was just talking almost all. The final monologue that I do on all the shows we do, whether it's a marathon or a series or whatever, is always about let's stop fighting. That's what it's all. If I had to sum up my message, it's let's stop fighting.
That's a good message.
There was a time in America when we did not fight this much. We've always had fighting, but not this much. So let's dial back the fighting. And that's always sort of my finale message, whether it takes that form or some other form. At Thanksgiving, it was about what we were talking about earlier, the communal experience of watching movies.
Right.
But it's always about let's come together. Let's not. I do my show that you mentioned, How Rednecks Saved Hollywood. It's a redneck show, and when I first started doing it, I just did it in the South. And then I started doing it in the North to sort of humanize Southerners for Northern people. And then I started, and then I would come back to the South, and when I'm in the South, I emphasize what's wrong with us. There's a reason that they don't like us, and because we do this and we do that and we do this. And so I hope this show has a little bit of a healing thing going for it, but even though it's about rednecks, nobody likes rednecks. But anyway, I always tell people in Little Rock or Hattiesburg, you need to visit San Francisco and the Upper West Side of New York, but even more so, the people on the Upper West Side of New York and the people in San Francisco and the people in West Hollywood, even more so, they need to go to Hattiesburg.
Right.
They need to go to Lawrence, Kansas, because they, at this point in this nation's history, boy, do they have a caricature vision of what's out there in the rest of the country. And so, I live in both places, and I see these things, and I hear what they say at the, at the tofu restaurant in in Santa Monica, and so I'm aware of the intense divisions, sectional divisions in the country, and I always say, you got to go to your opposite. Go to your opposite. You're okay. That's great. You have this great lifestyle in in the cool part of San Francisco or in Silicon Valley. Go to rural Mississippi where everybody goes to church. Meet some of those people.
Right.
It's not as bad as you think. So anyway, that's one of my ongoing. What you've detected is one of my ongoing themes is, we can still communicate with each other. We can still talk together.
Yeah, definitely. And through traveling, you come to find out that these people whom you assume are very different from you, you have more commonalities than you realize, and I think it's kind of healing to focus on those things, the things that we have in common for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you'll be able to talk about it, obviously, but you were renewed for a second season of The Last Drive-In, and
yep.
I was wondering if there's anything you could tell us about it. Like, is it going to come back this year? Is it all going to be double features again, or anything like that?
Well, it will definitely be double features again. I mean, we're arguing about the content, but basically, we argue about specific movies. But basically, it's always going to be a lot of cult films, a lot of recent films. It's going to be a mixture. It's going to be cult films, recent films, foreign films. I'd like to have more foreign films, actually. I'd like to have more Italian and Asian. It's going to be some what they call forgotten gems. They always call them forgotten gems. Usually it means some movie that didn't get distribution in the 80s, and,
right.
and Arrow Video found it and released it,
and I bought it.
But yeah, so some of those. So we'll have some of those. We'll also have some great classics.
Okay.
And we'll probably have at least 2 marathons as well, not just the series, but a couple of surprise marathons. So
great.
So yeah, they don't like me to talk about individual titles,
right?
And actually, I'm not the best person to talk about them anyway, because I'm always amazed. I'm always, my director is a guy named Austin Jennings. He's 32 years old, so he's a millennial. So we're completely different generations. And so he'll say, we got to show Chud as the opening movie for the series. And I'll say, what? Are you kidding me? Chud? That's horrible. That movie is horrible. And they go, no, it's a cult movie. When was the last time you saw it? And I said, when it came out. I would never watch it again. I watched it when it came out. I would never watch it again. And he says, rewatch it. So I go rewatch it. So I call him up. Still sucks, Austin. Sucks. It's like, hadn't gotten any better over the past 30 years. And he said, no, really, the fans love it. Remember that video box? Remember the box? How great the box was? And I'm like, no. And he's like, oh, it had such a great box, in the video stores. I'm like, well, did people take the box home and take the movie out of the box and play the movie?
Actually,
or did they just stare at the box?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know how having a great box is that great an argument for a movie. So anyway, he talks me into it, and he talks me into launching the series with Chud. Well, it was a huge success. People loved it. I'm like, so I'm the old fart who's saying that's a bad movie. And I said, I'm still going to talk honestly about it, Austin. He said, no, that's fine. They'll still love it. And I said, well, I'm going to be trampling all over their cult film. And he's like, no, that's fine. They'll love it. And so he was right. It's like, they understood that I didn't like it. They still loved it. They forgave me for not liking it. Everything he said was right. And so I'm not always the best judge of programming,
Well, it's interesting to hear your opinion on it, because like you said, everybody pretty much does love that movie. I'm not particularly a huge fan of it, but I appreciate your input on it. as I do most other things. But yeah, I guess there is some of that 80s nostalgia going on where even movies like that it might not be so great.
Yeah, but see, it was Shakespeare in the Park people looking down on exploitation films, doing a horror film for a lark,
Yeah.
John Hurd and his friends, Daniel Stern, John Hurd, all those like hip indie film guys, let's make a horror film. They weren't real lovers of the genre. So it's a little bit snooty, in my opinion.
Right.
Plus, it doesn't make a lick of sense. It just doesn't make a lick of sense. Plus, you don't see the chuds. Where are the chuds? You see some glowing yellow eyes for about 15 seconds.
I really enjoyed that you showed a couple newer titles, specifically Deathgasm and Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. I know some people prefer you showing the older stuff exclusively, but I don't know. I love both those movies, and I was really excited to see you put them on your show. Do you keep up with modern horror at all?
Well, I try to. I actually probably one of my favorite movies that we showed in the series would rank way down the list as far as the fans go, and that is House of the Devil, the Ty West film. I think it's brilliant. Everyone else thought it was slow. It's too slow. Joe Bob, it's too slow. And then I'm like, well, the end is not going to work unless you have all that buildup.
Right.
It's like, it's a slow buildup. You don't know when it's going to hit you, but you know it's going to hit you, and it's like, no, it's like, walking around that empty house too long. It's too slow. So I don't know. Maybe that's a sign of the times that horror movies are expected to move faster than that and have more jump scares. And I don't know, but I thought it was an extremely well done movie. I mean, like The Changeling is slow. They like that.
Yeah.
That's from 1990. I mean, they like The Changeling. The Changeling is really slow. I mean, there's not a lot going on in The Changeling. And 20 minutes of it is a seance. So anyway, that's the great thing about having a mix of styles, genres, time periods. You kind of find. I was amazed at the number of people who had not seen Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. They said it was the first time they'd ever seen it. Was on our show.
That was my first
It's
time.
not really a horror film. I wouldn't really call it a horror film. It's more like a cinema verite. I don't know what you'd call it. It's some kind of. It's a pseudo documentary, I guess you would call it. But it has so many horror elements that I think it qualifies as a horror film. Anyway, there were a whole lot of people who hadn't seen it. I thought it was so notorious. I thought everyone would see it, but no. So anyway, I like that. I like bringing new things to people. The film Demon Wind, that was a true forgotten gem. It's like virtually incomprehensible, but always entertaining. B movie from, I think, also from 1990 or around there. That one was popular with everybody, and most people had not seen that.
Yeah, that was new to me for sure.
Yeah.
I was wondering, since 4th of July is tomorrow, are there any sort of other than Jaws, anyways, are there any sort of Independence Day related horror movies that you might recommend people check out?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. No, none come to mind. Boy, if you asked me about Christmas, I could have told you some. But 4th of July, 4th of July is not a big day for horror.
Yeah.
I guess it should be, but no, I mean, nothing is popping into my head. I mean, it's sort of like every summer camp movie. It's like 4th of July is in the middle of summer, so every summer camp movie would sort of, qualify as
kind of work, yeah.
As a yeah.
Well, Joe Bob, I don't want to keep you too long. Thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to us. And like I mentioned, you're currently on tour with your live show, How Rednecks Saved Hollywood, and you're going to be in town here in Jacksonville, Florida on July 11th at Sunray Cinema. You've got 2 shows, too. The 7 o'clock, I think sold out, but we're doing a 10 o'clock as well, right?
Yeah, I think it's the 12th. Is it the 11th? I thought it was the 12th, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, yeah, Sunray Cinema next Thursday, whenever that is, whatever day that is, next Thursday. Yes, you're right. It's the 11th. It is the 11th. Okay, so yeah, July 11th, 2 shows, Sunray Cinema, How Rednecks Saved Hollywood. I hope I get some rowdy Floridians. This will be the first time I've ever done the show in Florida, in the state of Florida. Yep. So I've done it all over the country, but never in Florida. And I'm happy to be doing it in the redneck part of Florida.
The northern part, yeah.
I don't know if they would admit it, but they are. They're in the redneck part of Florida. I mean, it's not Tallahassee, but it's close.
It's close enough. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see you. And thanks again, Joe Bob. Take care.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Bye.